in the lean module. And we do know that these team phases does affect team performance. And we tried to create this by changing the team members. But what you demonstrated is that the unity of the team that you had allowed you to absorb, I heard this word, absorb the new team member. And very quickly they became part of the team. So therefore this storming effect that we tried to create didn't happen. And it didn't happen because you had created a unit very quickly, which made you robust to these outer noise factors. Us, Michael, me. So if you are a strong unit in your project team, when things change, because they will, you will be very robust to them. And the way in which you can get yourself up this curve is based upon two types of communication. What you do say and what you do not say. Most of the storming occurs because you say a lot and you listen less. That's often a consequence of the storming environment. So storming happens when you tend to say a lot but don't listen. But the way in which you get through storming is to find a way to listen more and ask people what their preferences are, what their concerns are. Because here, a lot of this happens because you are too task orientated. The way you get out of that, here, by listening more, you become more process and team maintenance orientated. And then when you blend this and this by talking and listening, then you will perform. So when you are a mature team, and you listen and you talk, and the air time that you have is balanced, and the maintenance of the team is considered, then you will be robust to outer noise. And before we started the electric motors, I said to you, make sure that during the cycle of this project, you balance your task orientation with your team maintenance. And the more you do that, the more the unit comes together and the more robust you are. The danger is sometimes you can be too robust that nobody can come in and join this team, because this team has become a special club. We have a special brand, a special logo. We're the drug stars. So that team identity can sometimes be too strong. But what you showed is it wasn't. You had the balance right. And in your projects, how much you say and what you say, and how much you don't say and what you don't say, is very important to how you get your project team on, especially in a supplier. This oscillating between norming and storming is a very common issue when you are customer and supplier working on a project. And the reason for that is something I wanted to project, but something I will draw, is that as you go through your project, you'll have this kind of converging and diverging relationship model as you go through define, measure, analyse, improve, control, and share. The converge, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. At the very beginning, you had the kick-off meeting with your supplier. And They're suspicious. Why us? Why this project? Why I care? What can you bring that I don't already know? What are you going to learn about my business that I don't want you to know? And so the team dynamics converge and go deep and dark. It's not very exploratory. It's very restrained. And can be very stormy. Okay? The next part, when you start to choose a project and agree, becomes more expansive. Now that you've agreed the project with a supplier rather than told the supplier the project, they start to believe that you are there to help them. Then, when you collect data and you see the truth, you start to take layers and you see the truth that you've never seen before. The supplier never wanted you to see this. The relationship converges to a deep, dark place. And it's possible you can have a storming phase again. I don't want you to see the truth because they're probably still a little bit suspicious of your motives. But then, when you do create some improvement and they feel the benefit, when they feel the benefit, then the relationship again becomes very expansive and very honest and open. And then you have a next risk. Your next risk is now that we've improved this, and there's some golden pot of something that you've benefited them with, what are you going to do to me or that later on? Are you going to come to my factory in the middle of the night and steal the pot of gold? Are you going to come and just take half of the pot of gold? And it becomes a very dark and suspicious relationship. And so your sense will do this. As you do this, this is how the performance and how your emotions will change. When you are in these, you will feel like stopping and giving up. You will feel like stopping and giving up. What you have to do is maintain the belief that what you're doing long term is right. That in some respects you're merely building a foundation. And foundations take time. But I have a conviction of belief that what you're trying to do with this supplier is right and honest. But they will test you. The supplier will test you through this. They'll test your honesty. They'll test what you're now going to do with this truth that you have discovered about me. Therefore, you're very probably going to go through norm and storm, norm and storm, norm and storm, as you go through define, measure, analyse, improve. And you can have an expansive, creative time, and you can have a regressive, converging, deep and dark time. That's why sometimes your project will be called an emotional roller coaster. Because of this. Ups and downs, ups and downs. But don't give up. Everything that you've done here has simulated this. Every time you blame us, we're forcing this convergence. Every time it's the floor, we're forcing that convergence. Every time we change a team member, we're forcing that convergence. Every time we make the task unclear, we're forcing that convergence. And every time we come into the room and we shake you, shut the door and laugh, we're causing that convergence.